Greenland is a place many dream of visiting, but only a few choose to live there. A land of icebergs, white nights, and polar bears, a place where you can witness the northern lights, massive glacier fractures, and breathtaking polar mirages. How do people survive where winter seems endless? Why is a car almost useless here? How have Greenlandic homes changed over the last 100 years? And how much does life beyond the Arctic Circle really cost? You'll learn all this and much more in this video. Greenland is the largest island on Earth, located just about 500 miles from the North Pole in the northeastern region between Europe and North America. Technically, the island belongs to Europe, as it is part of the Kingdom of Denmark along with several smaller islands. This gigantic island is covered by centuries-old ice for nearly 80% of its territory. The narrow coastline remains the only place where people can live. Greenland's total population is just 56,000 people. The largest city and capital is Nuuk, home to around 18,000 residents. The majority of the population consists of Greenlandic Eskimos, also known as Inuit. However, the locals call themselves Kalaallit. Indigenous residents speak the Greenlandic language, but Danish is the official state language, as about 10% of the population is Danish.
An island the world didn't know until the Vikings arrived. Greenland remained unknown to the wider world until the 10th century, when Norwegian Vikings landed on its shores, led by Eric the Red, who had been exiled from his native Iceland. Eric named the island Greenland, believing that an attractive name would draw new settlers. And it worked. Since Eric did not encounter a single indigenous resident during his 3 years on the island, he declared himself the owner of the Greenland. In the year 986, he managed to return to Iceland, persuading Vikings to move to the new island. Eric and the colonists set out with 25 ships, but only 14 reached their destination, carrying about 350 passengers. The new settlers founded Eystribyd, the Eastern Settlement. They actively traded with Iceland and Norway, exporting walrus tusks, livestock hides, and seal skins. It was during this time that the Vikings learned how to dry fish, allowing it to be stored for long periods and later exported. In the 13th century, Denmark took advantage of the Viking presence on the island and began colonizing it. From that point on, Greenland belonged to the Kingdom of Denmark. During World War II, Greenland distanced itself from Denmark and grew closer to the United States and Canada. However, after the war ended, Denmark regained control of the island, granting Greenland the status of an autonomous territory. A climate that shapes everyday life. Most of Greenland lies beyond the Arctic Circle, making its climate one of the harshest in the world. Winter lasts 8 to 9 months a year, with average temperatures ranging from -4 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit. In remote parts of the island, temperatures can drop as low as -58 degrees. Summers are quite cold as well, so swimming in the ocean is unlikely. The maximum air temperature reaches about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and on rare sunny days, it may climb to nearly 60. Despite this, Greenland's nature is astonishing. During the summer months, the coastal areas transform. Arctic poppies, saxfrages, fireweed, and dwarf birch begin to bloom. Occasionally, familiar willow trees can even be found. If you plan to visit Greenland, the ideal time is during the polar white nights from May through July. During the Arctic summer, the sun never sets on the island. But if your dream is to see the northern lights, the best time to travel is from October to March, when the nights are long and dark and the sky is clear and filled with stars. The Vikings believed that the northern lights were the shimmering armor of warrior women lighting up the night sky. The true treasure of Greenland, however, lies hidden in its surrounding waters, where seals, walruses, narwhals, and whales live. The very reason hundreds of tourists from around the world travel to Greenland each year.
Why is a car almost useless here? Conventional car transportation works only within towns and settlements, while connections between them are provided by air and sea. Within villages and cities, as well as beyond their limits, people travel by snowmobiles and dog sleds. And don't be surprised by the road sign, a red triangle with a sled. It is extremely important for locals, as it warns drivers about the possible appearance of sled drivers. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the popularity of sled dogs has declined by nearly half, but the tradition has survived. Locals use sled dogs to take tourists on excursions and also organize races. Here, the competition is not about speed, but about endurance and the ability to anticipate ice hazards and predict the weather. These dogs are not pets. They live outdoors in special enclosures and are trained to pull sleds from an early age. Their primary diet consists of raw fish. Tourists are not allowed to approach or feed sled dogs closely, as they are not accustomed to attention or strangers and may even bite. A taxi service, familiar to us, does exist in Greenland, but it operates inconsistently. Due to the climate and the high cost of fuel, fares are extremely expensive, and there are very few cars. In coastal cities, yellow boats often take on the role of taxis, with routes connecting settlements and nearby towns. Tourists love them, as this kind of water transport allows you to get close to icebergs and enjoy the view from the water. The primary means of traveling long distances are airplanes and helicopters. Traditions stronger than time, the hunter's path. Greenlanders have remained faithful to their Inuit ancestors. Preserving traditions while adapting to modern life is an essential part of the island's culture. A boy's first seal hunt is an important coming-of-age ritual. Usually, when a boy turns 13, he is expected to catch his first seal. A young hunter is always accompanied by a mentor, his father or uncle. In ancient times, it was believed that the spirits of the sea would turn away from the hunter if he showed disrespect. So what happened after the hunt? The first catch did not belong to the hunter himself. The meat and fat were shared among relatives and neighbors, demonstrating generosity and maturity. For local residents, this is not cruelty as it might seem, but an important part of their culture and a sustainable way of life. There is another warm tradition in Greenland, Kathamik. It is not just stopping by for coffee, but a genuine way of staying close to one another. Kathamiks are held for many reasons: a birthday, a child's first day of school, or simply an important family event. On these days, the home feels open to everyone: friends, neighbors, co-workers, and even unexpected guests. No formal invitation is required. If you know a Kathamik is happening, you are welcome to stop by. For tourists, this is a rare opportunity to get to know locals not through guided tours, but in a truly personal way, through conversation. There will always be coffee and tea on the table, homemade pastries, and alongside them very traditional treats: dried fish, whale meat, and sometimes even polar bear meat. There are also unspoken rules. It is customary to bring a small gift, to talk with the hosts and other guests, and not to stay too long. Over the course of a day, dozens of people may stop by a Kathamik, and everyone is welcome, but only for a short while. Why everyday life in Greenland has hardly changed over the past 100 years. Despite the passage of time, the daily life and work of Greenlanders remain largely unchanged. Much of life here is still organized the same way it was 100 years ago, simply adapted to modern realities and technologies. A traditional Greenlandic home is a small, carefully planned space, averaging about 750 square feet. Most houses are built from imported plywood. Typically, a home has a steep gabled roof and no more than 2 or 3 rooms. Almost all houses are built on stilts, raised about 3 feet above the ground. This design protects the building from frozen soil and structural damage. Heating is simple and reliable. A diesel stove is installed in the main living area and serves as the primary source of warmth. Over time, apartment buildings also appeared in Greenland. They were constructed not only in the capital, but also in towns where fish processing plants were established and a workforce was needed. At the same time, there were settlements where multi-story construction was deliberately avoided. In the past, the color of houses was not a matter of aesthetics, but a clear navigation system. Hospitals were painted yellow. Red was used for churches, schools, teachers' homes, and commercial buildings. Green buildings were designated for power engineers, auto mechanics, and technical service workers. Blue was associated with the fishing industry and factories, while black marked gas stations. Today, this system has completely disappeared, and houses are painted according to the owner's preferences. As a result, purple, pink, and soft pastel shades are now common, shaping the familiar modern look of Greenlandic towns. The interior of a Greenlandic home is simple and practical. The ground floor is well maintained and logically divided into two main areas, a living room and a dining area. The upper floor is used for bedrooms, most often two, one for children and one for adults. Greenlanders rarely sleep under blankets, preferring sleeping bags instead. Pillows are generally not used. The kitchen is located on the ground floor. One feature that immediately stands out to visitors is the area designated for processing game. Fish, seals, or other hunted animals are prepared right inside the home. Durable, easy-to-clean countertops, waste containers, and all necessary tools to quickly process a carcass. The stove is usually electric and is sometimes paired with a simple oven. Almost every home has a refrigerator, but in winter, nature partially takes over this function. Food is often stored in separate rooms or outdoors. Because of the harsh climate and complex soil conditions, living conditions vary greatly across different parts of the island. In some areas, the ground is so difficult that building roads and sewage systems becomes a serious technical challenge. That is why even today, many Greenlandic homes do not have conventional toilets. Waste is collected separately, and a special truck comes for cleaning and removal about once a week. Everyday realities of life on the island. There are no familiar fields, greenhouses, or farmers markets here. Which means food is not just food, it is the result of complex logistics and a daily struggle with a harsh climate. So why is food so expensive? Nearly 90% of all food products, except fish and marine mammal meat, are imported, mostly from Denmark. There are no discount vegetables on sale here. If a product makes it to the island, it is already expensive. Fruit, which has become a routine part of everyday diets elsewhere, is far from cheap in Greenland. A pound of apples costs around $4.50. Bananas are about $3.30. Considering the distance and the climate, these prices start to make more sense. Bread here is not just something served with a meal, it's almost a separate budget category. A standard loaf of white bread costs roughly $4.50 to $5 per loaf. Milk costs about $2.80 to $3.20 per liter. Meat is where prices become truly serious. Beef costs around $18 to $22 per pound, while pork is slightly more affordable at about $13 to $16 per pound. Potatoes cost approximately $2.50 to $3 per pound. Onions, $2.80 to $3.30. Strawberries, however, are a small luxury. A package of fresh berries costs about $6 to $7. Fish and seafood form the foundation of the local diet. Local halibuts or cod typically costs between $10 and $20 per pound. Whale meat, a traditional product used in everyday Greenlandic cooking, costs about $6 to $7. A pound of seal meat costs local residents around $6 to $8. Reindeer meat, more familiar to many outsiders, costs approximately $12 to $13 per pound. Musk ox meat is priced at about the same level. Which price surprised you most, higher than expected or lower? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you have ever considered traveling to see icebergs, this price list will definitely be useful. One night in a 3-star hotel costs between $150 and $300. More modest options do exist. Guest houses and hostels cost around $50 to $100 per night. A simple restaurant lunch costs about $20 to $50, while dinner with a hot entree and a drink can reach $50 to $100. Fans of morning cappuccinos may be slightly disappointed, as a single cup costs about $5. A glass of local beer costs $4 to $5, while an imported beer costs $6 to $7. Because of this, most Greenlanders carefully plan their budgets, and spontaneous trips to a store or cafe with friends are extremely rare. How much does dinner for one person cost in your country? Share in the comments.
Greenland is not about poverty, it is about isolation. Greenland is difficult to define with a single label, poor or wealthy. It exists somewhere between these concepts. On the one hand, prices are high, the job market is limited, and the economy depends heavily on imports. On the other hand, Greenland is far from destitute. The social system provides a basic standard of living. Healthcare, education, and social support are funded by Denmark. Homelessness in Greenland looks very different from what it does in warmer countries, largely because of the climate. Formally, the number of homeless people here is indeed significant. In Nuuk alone, there are about 400 people without permanent housing, which makes up roughly 2% of the registered population. However, the term homeless does not always mean living on the street. Due to harsh weather conditions, especially in winter, when the cold can be deadly, most people without permanent housing do not sleep outdoors. More often, they stay temporarily with relatives or friends, literally moving from one couch to another. In addition, the capital has municipal shelters where people can spend the night and wait out extreme cold. The situation changes in summer when temperatures stay between 32 and 54 degrees Fahrenheit, and some homeless individuals do begin sleeping outside. There's no familiar real estate market in Greenland with open listings and transparent pricing. According to local residents, housing is usually found through connections via relatives, friends, or word of mouth. Real estate in Greenland is quite expensive. In some cases, starting prices for residential properties begin at $300,000 and higher. Long-term rental costs vary across Greenland, but here's the average pricing in the capital. A room or studio apartment costs at least $400 per month. Two-bedroom apartments with full amenities start at $700, while a three-bedroom apartment costs local residents no less than $1,200 per month. At first glance, rent may seem expensive, but to understand whether it is truly high or relatively affordable, it is important to look at local salaries, which we will do next. Income levels on the island. Greenland often feels exotic and almost disconnected from everyday reality. Salaries in Greenland are paid in Danish kroner, since the island is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but to make things clearer, all figures here are converted into American dollars. At the beginning of 2026, the average salary in Greenland is about $3,300 per month. Formally, Greenland is considered a high-income region, but whether that reflects everyday reality is up to you to decide. Most residents of the island, fishermen, hunters, construction workers, shop employees, and service workers, earn between $2,200 and $4,000 per month. Doctors working in clinics earn salaries starting at around $5,500 per month. Teachers in the capital earn salaries starting from $6,200 per month. And of course, factory and company managers earn the highest wages, with monthly salaries starting at $10,000. Do you think it is worth living in a country without a familiar summer for this level of income? What people eat where the cold never ends. Traditional Greenlandic food is a reflection of nature itself, the sea, the cold, and long winters. The local diet is built around what the ocean and the tundra provide. Fish and seafood are central to everyday meals. Halibut, cod, shrimp, crab, and scallops. Hunting is just as important. Seal, whale, reindeer, and muskox meat are all part of traditional cuisine. Mattak is one of the most widespread snacks in Greenlandic cuisine and a longtime favorite among the indigenous population. The name mattak refers to whale skin and the layer of fat beneath it. It is often served raw or sprinkled with coarse salt. Most commonly, it is made from narwhal, a small whale known for its tusk and often called the unicorn of the sea. Suasat is one of the most recognizable and ancient dishes of Greenlandic cuisine. Essentially, it's a rich soup made from whatever is available: seal, whale, reindeer, or fish.
Rice, barley, or potatoes are added to the broth, and sometimes onions as well. The dish is simmered slowly for a long time, so the meat becomes tender and the flavor deep and hearty. Suasat was not created as a culinary luxury, but as a practical way to use hunted food as efficiently as possible in a harsh climate. Kiviak is one of the most unusual and controversial dishes in Greenlandic cuisine, and it truly can be shocking. It is made from small seabirds called auks, which are placed whole, feathers and beaks included, tightly inside a seal skin. The skin is then sewn shut, air is pressed out, and the bundle is left to ferment under stones for several months, usually from late summer until winter. The cold Arctic climate allows the dish to mature without rotting, turning the birds into a pungent delicacy with intense aroma and flavor. Kiviak is served only on special occasions and is always eaten outdoors. The smell is so strong it can cause dizziness. A kutak is one of the most beloved dishes among Greenlanders and is often called Arctic ice cream. Its base is animal fat, usually seal, reindeer, or whale, whipped until it becomes light and almost creamy. Berries are added, such as crowberries, blueberries, and sometimes lingonberries, along with sugar or sweetened condensed milk. Are there any dessert lovers here? Would you try this kind of ice cream? Lumpfish roe is one of the most recognizable seafood products of Greenland. Its flavor is salty and bold, with a pronounced ocean aroma. It is harvested in spring and typically served on bread with butter. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Why nature in Greenland is more dangerous than people. Greenland is a place where crime is not a major concern. Serious offenses are rare, and everyday danger for both locals and tourists is minimal. Most real threats here come not from people, but from nature. Temperatures on the island can drop sharply below freezing, even in summer, while winter brings extreme cold. Weather can change within minutes, turning rain into ice and increasing the risk of frostbite and hypothermia. Strong winds, snowstorms, and sudden shifts in conditions are common and can easily catch someone unprepared without proper gear. In summer, when the snow retreats, Greenland reveals another, less obvious danger: mosquitoes and biting midges. They are especially abundant from late June through August, when the tundra thaws and thousands of small bodies of water form. In calm weather, insects gather in dense clouds, making it difficult to work, move around, or even eat outdoors. For locals, this is not a surprise, but a seasonal reality they prepare for in advance, with nets, thick clothing, and specialized repellents. As for polar bears, you have probably thought about them more than once over the last few minutes of this video. Encountering the massive ruler of the North in everyday life, far from the so-called land of polar bears, is extremely unlikely, but the possibility does exist. In Greenland, the term land of polar bears refers to the northern and northeastern regions of the island, where humans are rare visitors. In Nuuk, people hardly think about them at all. Locals and guides agree. If you do not camp alone in the wilderness and follow basic safety rules, there's little reason for concern. No one carries weapons just in case, and that says a lot about the real level of risk. Still, the eastern coast occasionally reminds everyone that the Arctic follows its own rules. From time to time, polar bears are spotted walking near the runway of the airport in Kalusuk. These incidents are rare, but they do happen. Not as a reason for panic, but as a reminder that even where danger feels distant, the wild is always close. The most impressive places on the island. Greenland is an extraordinary country that draws travelers from all over the world, and there truly is plenty to see here. The most remarkable place of all is Northeast Greenland National Park, the largest national park on Earth. Its area exceeds 347,000 square miles. No one lives here, but vast herds of muskoxen roam the land, polar bears wander the ice, and rare Arctic bird species thrive. Regular tours do not operate here, and even local residents are not freely allowed to enter. However, access is possible as part of scientific or expedition-style tourist trips, or by ship traveling along the coastline.
Another equally striking location is the Ilulissat Ice Fjord, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most active glacial regions on the planet. Here, the sense of scale is almost physical. The crack of splitting ice, the slow drift of towering icebergs, and perhaps the most spectacular sight of all, glacier calving, when massive chunks of ice suddenly break off and crash into the water. If you dream of seeing whales in their natural habitat, then Disco Bay is the place to go. Several whale species can be spotted here, including humpback whales, fin whales, sei whales, minke whales, and the rare and ancient bowhead whale. Whales are most commonly seen from June through September, and it is not always necessary to go out to sea. Sometimes they can be observed right from the shore. And of course, there's the symbol of the entire Arctic, visible from almost anywhere on the island, the Northern Lights. Greenland is one of the best places in the world to see them. There is little artificial lighting, nights are long and dark, and the atmosphere is so clear that the colors of the aurora appear sharper and more vivid. The best time to witness this natural phenomenon is from October through March. In truth, Greenland has many more fascinating and unusual places, but that is a story for another time. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new and exciting stories.